The recipe that I'm showing you today is Italian meatballs. I adapted it from a cookbook called Well Fed 2, More Paleo Recipes for People Who Love to Eat by Melissa Joulwan. I choose this recipe to make because I want ground beef meatballs. I don't want pork meatballs for other reasons. And I want gluten-free meatballs, and that's hard to find. So this recipe meets that need. And in total prep time, it took about half an hour to put together, and then I just put it let it cool, put the meatballs in the freezer, and then put them into bags. And I had, from this recipe, 2 meals worth of meatballs. So I'm showing you the ingredients here. I adapted it a little from the original recipe. So you start off with 2 tablespoons of warm water and half a teaspoon of cream of tartar and a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. And you take those 3 ingredients, the warm water, the cream of tartar, and the baking soda, and mix them all together. And then set that aside. Then you take a pound of ground beef. In this recipe, I kind of doubled it and a little more so that I could, because I had 2 2/3 pounds of ground beef. Then you take your ground beef and put it together with a clove of garlic minced. I did not have the fresh garlic, so I did half a teaspoon of garlic powder per pound, and then a tablespoon of tomato paste, a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, and I didn't have the half cup of fresh parsley leaves minced, so I used 2 teaspoons of dried parsley. Then also a teaspoon of salt, and you could add a 1/4 teaspoon crushed red pepper flakes, but I don't like anything spicy, so I didn't add that, and then a half teaspoon of Italian herb blend. So here I'm just putting all the ingredients together. So you set aside your baking soda, cream of tartar, water mix, and add that at the very end. But then throw everything in the bowl. And then there are several ways to mix this. So you could, for a smooth texture, then you could use a food processor or stand mixer with the paddle attachment. And so that's what I did this week when I made this video I recorded was from last week. So the more traditional kind of taste, you would blend it by hand, which is what I'm going to show you here. Then you shape it into meatballs using either a tablespoon scoop, which I don't have, so I used a tablespoon, but then it got a little awkward to use the tablespoon, so I just tried to make the meatballs all around the same size. Or you could do burgers out of this, or you could do like sausage links out of this as well. And then you can chill them for 10 minutes in the fridge, which I didn't realize was part of the recipe till I'm reading it right now. So you don't have to do that because I didn't, and it turned out just fine. Then the cream of tartar and baking soda actually is a replacement for breadcrumbs. It helps the ground meat to be tenderized, and it gives it a nice, delicate, juicy texture. So then when you're cooking them, there's 3 ways of cooking them. You can either bake in the oven, you can cook on the stove, or you could cook on the grill. I baked them in the oven, so I'm just going to tell you how to do that here, where you want to have some kind of parchment paper, or I have my silicone pan liner on my baking sheet, and definitely it needs a rim because there's lots of the fat that comes off of it. Preheat the oven to 400 and bake the meatballs for 20 to 25 minutes until browned and sizzling. So full disclosure, when I was making this recipe again, I forgot how much time, and this is why you always read your recipe. I thought I needed to bake them for 40 minutes. I baked them for 35. They were just that little bit too cooked, and I'm very sorry about that. They were still edible, but just too cooked. So anyway, there you go. Then what I did was, after I baked them, I let them cool down completely, and then I froze them. And I froze them in 2 batches. And then when I used them again, I just stuck them into my sauce, tomato sauce that I was warming up, and some vegetables in there. And they were warmed up in about 20 minutes. And then after that, I made some gluten-free noodles to go along with it and the veggies. So it made a very nice meal. My family's been pretty happy with this meal. So that's Italian meatballs. Today I'd like to share a verse from a hymn. I come to thee, dear